and welcome down to the abyssal layer of the Radiophonic Sea Creatures. Stick your paperclip dick into an electrical socket because I, Tokyo Choo Choo, am going to be your host today. And with me, as always, are two men who can shock you by conducting static electricity into their pubic hairs. It's Human Metal and Brack. How are you guys? How are you, Human Metal?
Feeling like Blanca. Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm sorry I wasn't I wasn't with you guys in the last recording because Skype decided that it doesn't want to send me notifications anymore when there's talk on the channel. So I completely missed the appointment for that.
Sure. That's how I break up with all my girlfriends. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't get the message. Skype was not notifying me of your messages.
All of your girlfriends. Are you trying to copy Choo Choo's lifestyle, or what is happening here?
No, I'm breaking up with them.
Right, he keeps all of them. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just collect them. I don't break up with them. I just slit their throats and stick them in the cupboard.
You know, anyway. The problem is I'm not too sure if you're joking.
I'm pretty sure he's joking because, like, there's not that much space in Japan for, like, a cupboard. Where do you keep all those bodies? Like,
well, actually, the trick is, Brack, to cut them into pieces and stack them up in orderly fashion. Then you can get a lot in there. But anyway, what have you been doing recently? Of course, I have the Japanese efficient mindset.
Adopted it, yes. I have been watching, not finished yet, but watching Good Omens on Amazon Prime, It's an Amazon Prime exclusive show, which is based on the book by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, which are, if you know these two authors, already means that's gonna be a good time. And the show is a great adaptation of that. I've heard, because I haven't read the book, but I was very interested in the show once it got announced and everything, and Neil Gaiman seems to be heavily involved in everything. Terry Pratchett sadly died a while ago, but yeah, I enjoy the fuck out of this. It's a fun story about basically an angel and a demon who have become friends since the old times, since Garden Eden. They have been around on Earth all the time, the only ones who were, strolling around on Earth all the time. And over time, they found out that it's much more fun to just, be among Earthlings than cause harm or make the world better. So they left all that to the people on Earth, like, do the harm and make the world better, and, just reported to their superiors in heaven and in hell that they caused all of this and decided to, spend their life on Earth as friends and, having fun in the world and everything. But everything good must come to an end, and so the apocalypse is on the doorsteps. So the Antichrist is supposed to be born into the world and supposed to be delivered by the demon Crawley, and brought to the pair, whatever is supposed to bring that child up. Yeah, and then things happen, shit goes wrong, and they lose the fucking Antichrist. They don't know where it is anymore. And from there on, it's all about, figuring this shit out before their superiors figure out that something went wrong. And, all the same time, they have already decided they don't want the apocalypse to happen, so they're trying to make that also not happen. It's a giant bowl of chaos with a lot of colorful, fun characters, witches, crazy clans people, and secret satanic nuns, and fucking I don't know what else. It's really fun. It's a fun show. It's very well written. It's incredibly fun dialogue, very kooky, very quaint and enjoyable. I love that show to death, and I can't wait to watch the last 3 episodes. It's a short season. It's only 6 episodes, I think.
Yeah, and I've actually read the book, and I've been watching the show as well. And I'm kind of disappointed, actually. Like, I really like the book. It's one of my favorite books, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling the show at all.
Oh, that's a shame.
Except that I really like the casting of the main 2 characters, like David Tennant and Michael Sheen.
Yeah, I think they
are so good. They're
great chemistry.
Yeah, they're definitely the best part of the show. But like, I feel like the book, the show is a little bit too quaint. You know what I mean? Like a little bit too cutesy.
Yeah.
And I feel like the book is less of that, but maybe that's just like
is the
how
book
I read it.
a bit more dry and mean?
It's definitely a little bit more dry and mean.
Okay.
And but overall, I'm still enjoying the show. Like it's not like it's a bad show or anything, but I'm just comparing it to a book I really love. So that makes it pretty hard, high standards to live up to.
I just really feel like this is one of the few shows that I can't speak for the Neil Gaiman part, but that definitely feels a lot of that feels like they captured the fun way Terry Pratchett like structures his characters and makes them these very flawed and often very stupid people who are just normal people, even if they're supernatural beings or something like that, and which is pretty much his modus operandi for all his Discworld characters, book series I enjoy a lot. I have all the audiobooks of that and I love it to death. And I think this series kind of captures that tone as well, with all the characters being like these kind of fuck-ups and idiots in a way, but very sympathetic ones. Like like you said, the two main characters are great because of the actors they're played by, but they're also immediately like, these two characters are on screen and they're immediately sympathetic. It's like you hear those two speak with each other for a while and you're like, oh my god, I like both these characters quite a lot. And there are a bunch of those in the show. So yeah, I really enjoy it. I guess it's good that I haven't read the book, or I wouldn't like it as much. But yeah, if you haven't read the book, or if you have read the book, I don't know. Either way, check it out. I think you'll have a good time. Either way, maybe more so if you haven't read the source material.
Oh yeah, like the concept of like the bureaucracy of like heaven and hell. That's always fun. And it's like that's one of the main aspects of the show that I equally enjoy is in the book. So yeah, that's good. It's good stuff.
All right.
It sounds interesting. I like Michael Sheen and David Tennant, but unfortunately, I don't really have access to Amazon Prime Video. Do you subscribe to it like Netflix, or do you buy one episode?
No, you subscribe to it like Netflix.
Okay,
or you subscribe to it like me, where I just use a different email and then keep like a month trial and then cancel it again.
That's a pretty good idea.
Well, but it's included in my for me. It's just included in my normal Amazon subscription. Whereas I only grab that for like free shipping because I buy a lot of on Amazon, and then Amazon Video got included in that, and a bit of Amazon Music and stuff like that. So it's the whole package. So I probably won't cancel that. And once in a while, there's a good show on there as well that is exclusive, like this one.
It's funny. Like the one show I'm bringing up is also a show that's on Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah. The second show, like the show I've been watching, of a bit struggling through, is Too Old to Die Young, which is the new show by, what's his name again? Why don't I remember his name? I'm looking it up right now. Of course, Nicholas Winding Refn.
Ah, that guy.
Yeah. And what's the funny the main character of Too Old to Die Young makes the guy in Drive look like a blabbermouth. Like that's how little language, like how little he talks in this show. It's insane. Like it feels like the show is almost daring you to keep watching by how slow and meticulous it is. So I'm kind of a little bit disappointed in that, but it also is like kind of hypnotizing in a way that I can't stop watching it. So yeah, I've watched 3 episodes yet. From like I think it's like 10 episodes, maybe even less. Also, the length of the episodes changes insanely. Like the first episode is literally an hour and a half, and the last episode is a half hour long. And like the episodes like are completely different lengths and everything. But it features his like very unique, it's his visual style, where it's like the super heavy neon lighting every time, where it's like very silent and slow with a little bit like of amazing synth music in the background. And that's like, I just got a great kick out of that. But besides that, like I was hoping that it's set in LA, obviously. And it's like about a dirty cop played by Miles Teller, who's like a piece of shit. Like you haven't seen a piece of shit as a main character like this yet in any show, because he's literally like the worst person around. Like he's such an asshole. And he's kind of a pedophile as well. That's the main character. Yes, yeah. He's dating a 17-year-old, even though he's like 30. So maybe Chuchu might like him.
But, so that's pretty much the opposite to a pedophile, right? If he's dating a 70-year-old.
17.
Oh, 17. Okay. 17-year-old.
And like that's already terrible enough. Like in the first episode, which is like the most weirdest performance I've ever seen in a show. Her father is played by William Baldwin, who is like, I don't know, it's hard to describe what his performance is like, but it's like very mesmerizing because it's so fucking weird. Like it's one of the weirdest performances I've ever seen in the show. And there's one moment where they're like, he's sort of threatening him while they're sitting in his daughter's room, right? And they're all like covered in pillows and like and they're holding his daughter's puppets and stuff. Well, he's like he's threatening Miles Teller, and it's like such a weird scene that goes on for like 20 minutes. It's like, what's going on? What am I watching? Why am I watching this? But it's still at the same time, it's like you can't look away because it's so weird.
Okay.
The biggest disappointment is because one of the reasons I was looking forward to it. Like I was kind of disappointed in the last few movies that Nicholas Winding Refn has made after Drive, because they're just kind of too weird and too slow and don't seem to have that much of a point. So I was like, but this is going to be co-created and co-written by Ed Brubaker, who is like one of the best noir comic book writers around, the best noir comic book writer around. Like his comic is his Criminals comic series is like some of the best noir I ever read. But I was like, maybe he will rein him in. He will make a combination of his writing style and Nicholas Winding Refn's like visual style, and it will be the perfect show for me. But that didn't really happen, which is like the main thing that disappointed me. But at the same time, I'm probably still gonna finish this show, even though it's so weird. And one thing that's gonna happen in the next episode is that Hideo Kojima is gonna cut a guy's finger off with a samurai sword. So that's a spoiler for one of the episodes. Because for some reason he is in the show as well.
Sure.
That's probably one of the reasons why Nicholas Winding Refn is in the new Kojima game. So
for
some reason they're buddies. Yeah. It's really weird. But yeah, like Miles Teller is okay in it. I think really a performance that's really good is John Hawkes, who is like an actor I really like, and he has like a face that's made for like noir detective stories, so he really fits into the role really well. Who's like this one-eyed ex-CIA assassin, and like he has a really nice character in there. But overall, I think this is a show that like maybe 10 people in the world will enjoy, and I'm like number 11. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm like half in. I got my foot in the door, but I'm not sure if I should fully go into the room. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, and I don't recommend it to anybody else.
Yeah, but I'd say I'm not quite sure if you're enticing or repulsing there, Brackett.
He doesn't know either.
Yeah.
Not yet anyway.
No, but like I know this is like everything they're doing is sort of in my wheelhouse, but it's still too much out there for me to fully enjoy it. So I know that people that don't have similar taste to me will like it even less. So I think I can't really recommend it to anybody because it's just like it's so weird.
Yeah, it's like if there's like a really hot girl, but when you get down to it, like, you know, she has like a slack fanny and a fucking bit of camel toe. Like that's my own thing, like, you know, like things I like and things I don't like. Never mind. Moving on. So I've been playing Darksiders 2.
Nice.
My time. Quite a lot of it actually. Certainly more than I have played any other video game of recent memory, apart from WWE 2K19. But I play that all the time, and it doesn't it doesn't bear mentioning. But yeah, so Darksiders 2. I got that on PS Plus like a few months ago or whatever. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I decided that I wanted to play something Zelda-ish, kind of action adventure, because I haven't played that type of game since God of War from last year. And yeah, I'm really happy I did, because I love Darksiders, and I also love God of War 2. So I should preface what I'm going to say about Darksiders 2 by saying I played Darksiders 1 and had a really mixed time with it. There were some things that I liked about the original Darksiders, namely its dungeons and some of its bosses and stuff. But there were other things about Darksiders that really, really didn't fly with me, and I really did not like about it. So one of the things I disliked about the original Darksiders was the art design, strangely, because Darksiders was set in a post-apocalyptic world. So the hub world was a massive abandoned buildings and sewers. It was just gray and brown, and it was really boring, and it was a very thinly designed sort of linear corridor between one area to another, and I really didn't like that about Darksiders. It was very transparent.
I think it started out like that, but afterwards it really got more fantasy in the open world as well.
Well, the Dark Tower and stuff was pretty cool. But generally speaking, I don't know. I mean, there was a desert area and stuff. You're right. It did kind of expand upon that, but I think the post-apocalyptic thing was always there in the original Darksiders, in my opinion. I mean,
you always had zombies and shit around. That's true.
Yeah,
they're always I enjoyed a little bit out of the first Darksiders in the world is that this is way after humans already dead. All the humanity is already gone, which is kind of interesting way to start the game.
Yeah, you see, I just didn't really get in with that. I think there was so much post-apocalyptic stuff, and I think Darksiders fit right in there. In that period where everything was that kind of designed, it was right in that period where everything was fucking post-apocalyptic. Do you know what I mean? Everything was brown and gray, and Darksiders were one of the prime culprits of it. And I think that's why at that time it just really didn't appeal to me. But there are other things about the game that irked me. Darksiders is one of those games that kept throwing mechanics in there that didn't quite fit. Because primarily you had a game that was a Zelda ripoff, but then it's hey, here's a Gears of War style third-person shooter, and here's a turret gun section, and here's a fucking racing section, and here's a fucking section where you're a huge monster walking around breaking buildings and stuff. On the surface, it seems, that seems like a good thing to break up gameplay variety, right? But for me, it felt very much like the Mako missions in Mass Effect. In Mass Effect, where it seems like a really cool idea to go down to a planet in a hover ship and explore, but then you actually play it and the gameplay mechanics really clumsy and poorly designed and stuff, and it's not much fun, and you wish it really wasn't part of the game. That's kind of pretty much like every Sonic game, basically, that does anything other than jumping and running. I felt that about Darksiders. I felt those were really clumsy, poorly designed pieces of gameplay. So Brack probably held on longer than me through Darksiders. I think I made it to
I really enjoyed Darksiders. I really liked it more than most Zelda games I've played. And I really liked the dungeon design, and I thought the combat was really good. And I really liked the boss fights. There are stuff I disliked about it. I think Darksiders 2 does a lot of stuff better than Darksiders 1 as well, but it also does some stuff worse than Darksiders 1, in my opinion.
So I heard the dungeons are not as good as the Darksiders 1.
Yeah, that's the main problem, but everything else is better. Literally everything else.
You see, I love Darksiders 2. I love it so much more than the original. So in my opinion, so obviously there's going to be a bit of a difference of opinion here, but I find Darksiders 2 better in every way, including the dungeons. Part of the reason the original Darksiders really frustrated me is sometimes the dungeons really seemed like really insurmountable things to me, and kind of very bothering endeavors. And so I enjoy the sort of more slightly pared back dungeons in Darksiders 2. Maybe it's because I'm limited on time to game these days. But
I agree with that, because I actually literally had to restart Darksiders 1 or at least like got back, because I was like in the middle of a dungeon and I couldn't play anymore. And then it like was a few weeks went by before I started up again. It's like, okay, what the hell do I do now? Like I'm completely lost, which is something that you don't really have. It's in Darksiders 2, from what I remember.
Yeah, that's that. It sort of maybe it suits my gameplay style, but also the art design is much better in my opinion. It's way more fantasy based. You know, you got the beautiful sort of Lord of the Rings style, like the world, and the characters are really nicely designed. It's got like more of a sort of cell shaded element than the original had. Everything feels very like solid and kind of way more cohesive in its artistic tone than the original game, and the soundtrack is fucking brilliant as well.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest improvements. Like the soundtrack, it's like still like fantasy, like normal fantasy stuff, but it's done so excellent that you're like, oh, I'm just nodding my head. Like I'm really enjoying the sound, even though like it's hard to describe why, but it's just like stuff you've heard before, but just a little bit better, like a few octanes better than that you normally experience with like a fantasy soundtrack.
I think these days it's outside of like 2D platformers and stuff in you know like big budget 3D games. It's rare to hear a soundtrack that actually really grabs your attention. But that one, there are some times when I'm in like the the hub world and the open parts between the dungeons where the soundtrack is so awesome, you just want to stop for a second and just like yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's a really good tune right there.
Mm-hmm. So I know the guy also does the soundtrack for Horizon Zero Dawn, and he does a really good job in that one as well.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's kind of a game I'm interested in too. But yeah, I really like it. I really like the puzzles. The puzzles are very nice. The bosses are great. It's just a really good time. I'm not so far into it. I think I've done like the first 3 dungeons or whatever. I've beaten the first 3 bosses, but I'm just having a whale of a time. And it doesn't have any of those really like enforced weird mechanics that the first one had. It's got much better art design, much better soundtrack, and plus it's got Michael Wincott who voices Death. That's awesome.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. Like I really like his performance in this actually. Like he has a really like deep, like smoky voice, and I think Dead is also a much more fun character than War, who's like angry all the time. But Dead is kind of snarky at times.
Yeah,
he has some sass to him.
Yeah, he's certainly a lot more sarcastic. Yeah, but yeah, I really like it. And I'm really looking forward to playing more of it. Also, another thing that's what's way better about Darksiders 2 is the exploration element of it. Darksiders was way more linear than Darksiders 2. I mean, Darksiders 2 is linear, but there are moments of exploration, or there's breaks in combat where you get to properly explore in Darksiders 2, like where you don't have like 150 guys trying to kill you at the same time. And it's got more of a sort of almost like a Skyrim-y element to it, where you're free to sort of, go and explore these ancient ruins or something that you've just come across. And I really appreciate that part of it as well. So yeah, like I say, I'm really enjoying it. It's been a while since I've played an action-adventure, sort of semi-linear RPG style game like that since God of War. And before God of War, it was a long time since, before God of War that that I played anything like this. And whilst it's not as good as God of War, but then again, what is? It's a decent sort of replication of what made God of War great. So there you go. Darksiders 2, go play it if you got it on PS Plus. It's worth playing. And with that, we're going to move out of the shallows and into the depths. Welcome back to the depths. So today on the depths, we are going to be talking about 2 movies which we recommended to each other. I know there's 3 of us, but Human Metal wasn't here when we were recommending it. So, he was dead in the desert and somehow resurrected himself like a zombie. But Brack recommended that I watch Thief, and I recommended that Brack should watch Mandy. And Human Metal came in on the action and watched both those films along with us. And hopefully, because we announced it beforehand, so have you, Radiophonic Sea Creatures audience. But if you didn't, oh well. But if you didn't, however, please note that there are going to be spoilers here for both films. So we're going to totally ruin Thief and Mandy for you. So if you don't want to hear those spoilers and want to go off and watch those movies before you come back and listen to this awesome conversation we're about to have, please go do so. So anyway, we're going to start with Mandy. So Mandy was my choice. So I'm going to kick off with my feelings about why I recommended this film and how awesome it is. It's awesome. Yeah. I actually think it's one of the better films of the last 10 years. It would rank quite high on my appreciation list. I think it's a cult classic in the making, if it's not already one. I think in 15 years or whatever, there'll be a generation of kids talking about this film like there was The Crow or films like that back in the past. At least I hope there is, because it definitely deserves it. Mandy is a crazy film. The first half of it is like this really intensely artistic, beautifully stylized art house film, which is like perfectly directed. It has amazing performances in it, especially from the bad guy, who's played by Bruce Wayne's father.
That's like it's kind of weird because like you have Nicolas Cage in there, right? And you expect Nicolas Cage, that's gonna be the crazy performance to watch. But no, there's this guy Jeremiah Sands, played by Linus Roach, who's like just as crazy.
Yeah, he's freaking awesome in that film. He has one of the best monologues ever. During the central part of the film, where he has this, like, I don't know, it must be like at least 10 minutes or something, where he's basically having this giant bad guy monologue. It's one of the best like bad guy scenes in any film ever. It's like one of the best monologues. It's just fantastically acted and written. It's fantastic stuff. Then of course the back end of the film is just totally shifts tones and genres and basically becomes like a grindhouse revenge film, like, and a crazy one at that. So you get all of the wild-eyed, nutsoid Nicolas Cage stuff that you could ever want in the back end of Mandy, and it really is daft and preposterous, and like at times it's so bad that it's hilarious, but it's bad in a good way, not a bad way, that you can't help but sort of, I hope the film sort of knows that you're laughing at it, and you're sort of laughing along with it then rather at it. You know what I mean? Like how bad it is.
I'm definitely laughing with it, and I really like the moment where it like kind of switched. There's like this one scene. It's like I think maybe straight in the middle of the movie, right? Which is where Nicolas Cage goes into a bathroom, and like in his underwear, and he's bleeding, and he's like his wife was killed the night before, right? And he's just like looking for like a bottle of alcohol to drink, right? As Nicolas Cage is like acting his ass off, like you can't say like some of the other like kind of failed, not failed, but like fallen actor stars, right? Like Bruce Willis, they just phone it in, like they don't care anymore. Nicolas Cage cares a lot because like he's screaming, and he's like you can actually sense the pain on his face, right? And then he's like screaming, he's just like drinking this liquor, and then he's screaming again, and then like in the beginning, like you're kind of laughing at it, like it's like, oh my god, the crazy Nicolas Cage, but then like he breaks down and starts crying, and it's also on the same level of intensity, and you actually feel it, like you actually get like, oh fuck, no, I feel bad for laughing at it earlier because like it is so comfortable, and he's really showing off those emotions, and then he's getting angry again, and he gets like raged angry, and then now the next part of the movie is going to start. Now the revenge part of the movie is going to start, and I absolutely love that sequence.
Yes, I absolutely love it too, because it's everything. It's hilarious, it's over the top, it's really sort of overwrought and bad, but at the same time, like you say, you feel it, and it's also fucking brilliant and intense at the same time. It's like everything all in one. It's great scene.
And it also looks completely different from the rest of the movie. Like it's like this one like completely lit, like I don't know, like 70s like bedroom. Like it's looked really bad. It was like really tacky bedrooms.
And like it's not like the film doesn't know what they're doing, because you have Nicolas Cage in a pair of Y fronts and a tiger t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? There's no way that anybody would ever look at that and not think it's funny. like like screaming and going crazy. But like they played it just right because, like you say, it's like it's hilarious and funny and over the top, but it's really intense and actually really fucking sad. It's awesome.
Yeah. Like that sad part just it surprises you because like I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting, oh, then now it's just gonna go crazy. It's gonna be Nick Cage crazy. But then I'm like, Nick Cage is an amazing actor. Like he is a good actor. So when he goes like for that deep like sadness emotion, it also hits like as hard. So it's really it's really well done.
Yeah,
I think the funniest. Sorry, I think the funniest thing I thought was in that movie is that Nicolas Cage seems to be sometimes in a different movie, just in terms of how his dialogue comes across. Like, you know, like you mentioned in the beginning, Choo, there are so many. All the other characters in this movie act like this, like it's the super heavy mood piece with long monologues, and every word is like, I will do everything you say, Jeremiah. Like every one of his chords is like every word is pregnant with meaning and stuff like that. And in the beginning, let me finish, please. In the beginning, Nicolas Cage talks like that as well. You know, when he has conversations with Mandy and stuff like that, very short but pregnant pauses and stuff like that. And then once that moment hits, when he gets like all whacked out of his knockers, he starts talking like he's in a 90s action flick. Like when he goes to Bill Duke and gets his weapon, he's like, man, fucking religious nut jobs out there in the woods, you're fucking crazy, I don't fucking get it, I don't understand. And then, fights one of these guys, and he slices open his chest and, rips his shirt, and Nicolas Cage is like, that was my favorite shirt. It's like from a fucking 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And then, he comes back to the guy and you ripped my shirt! You ripped my shirt! It just goes overboard. It's like weird. It's so weirdly inconsistent after that switch. It's like he suddenly switched movies. What the fuck?
It's like everybody else is like in a Nicholas Winding Refn movie.
Yeah,
and Cage, it's just like in a Cage movie. Like he's in his own world, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Although in his defense, if someone killed your wife, it might well break your calm.
Obviously, but it's so jarring and funny that everyone around him is like still in the first half of this movie, and he has switched gears and has now started the second part for himself, and it's amazing. It's like, okay, he went full Cage. So yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. Like the first hour was kind of rough at times for me watching it.
It was
like,
very slow.
I really had to push myself forward through it. Like it helps that the soundtrack is like amazing. Like it's like a really interesting soundtrack, and the visual style is also amazing. It feels like a psychedelic album cover, like every single shot of the movie. So that helps. But then the first hour is like, oh, this is pretty hard to watch. But then when it's finally switched, then it actually makes you reflect on the first half, and it makes you like it more. But yeah, still, like I thought the first hour was kind of a little bit too difficult to watch for me. Like a little bit too slow and too meandering.
I think maybe that's because you were. That's possibly because you knew that the craziness was coming in the second half and were sort of anticipating it. But I didn't know that when I first watched Mandy. I had no fucking clue what the film was about, how its tone was or anything. So I really, there was no anticipation for things picking up. I just really enjoyed it as a slow-paced, artistic film. And then when the pace did pick up in the second half, it really threw me through a loop. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Whoa! So...
I mean, you probably haven't seen the trailers then either, because the trailer
I hadn't seen the trailer either.
The trailer of that movie for that movie sold it like it would only be like the second half. Like you saw only the stuff with Nicolas Cage chainsaw fencing with another dude and him grinning into the camera with his blood smeared face and stuff like that. It was only those scenes.
Shot. I love that shot, by the way.
It's great. But the trailer sold it like it would only be that kind of movie. So I can understand why a lot of people would be kind of turned off by the first half. And be like, wait, this is not what I expected full Cage all the time, and that's not what this movie is. Although you mentioned the soundtrack, I gotta say, the soundtrack and the sound, editing and everything, in the first part already seemed at times like it was already going full Cage itself, because every time someone was pulling out like a pseudo artifact, and we all know that's bullshit at some point, that, you know, those things don't have magical powers, but, you know, in the movie, in the beginning, the movie plays it like, oh, is there something supernatural actually going on? And then you learn, no, they're all just fucking coked out of their mind. They're all on super drugs. And that's, you know, the atmosphere of this movie. But in the beginning, it's like, hey, he has this ocarina or whatever and shows it to a guy. And then the soundtrack goes, BOOM! And it's like, okay, chill. And it does that several times.
It actually feels very, very Lovecraftian.
Yeah,
like
I know.
Especially like that drug gang, like the gang of people that are drugs. It feels like, but Cage actually at some point also does their drugs. It actually feels like they literally like saw like Cthulhu or some shit, and then just like their minds were just completely crazy.
It's the Mountains of Madness. It's
Yeah. And Bill Duke says like they love pain, man. Like, and he's talking about how they now after doing the drugs they now love pain. It's like oh fuck, what the fuck is this?
I mean, the whole aesthetic of the movie plays into that, like, you know, with the book that Mandy is reading, with the music, with the whole style, the t-shirts they're wearing, it's all like from I don't know, 80s psychedelic rock band album cover and stuff like that. That's the whole vibe the movie is bringing across. I mean, she has a fucking Black Sabbath t-shirt on. That's not a coincidence. That's intentional, right? So, you know, then you got these animated sequences in between where it's Mandy as a naked cartoon chick, like saving a monster, which is obviously Nicolas Cage. And, you know, because she saved him from his past life, whatever he was before. Apparently he was a badass if he was an assassin or a contract killer or whatever he was. I don't know, maybe in the army. But yeah, you know, she apparently like got him out of there and made him a happier person. That's why he goes full nuts once she dies. But, you know, all of that plays into that kind of grungy 80s rock album cover, Cthulhu-like stuff, Lovecraftian aesthetic. So that's pretty consistent in that way.
I think he used to be a cheddar goblin. Like, this is one of the weirdest moments of the film.
What the fuck?
It's like this. Which is, by the way, I'm not sure if you know this, the cheddar goblin commercial, like in the movie, is done by a different director. It's by the director who also did the movie Too Many Cooks. I'm not sure if you ever seen Too Many Cooks.
Yes.
On YouTube.
Yes.
Like that's that's a recommendation, by the way. If you haven't seen Too Many Cooks, go watch Too Many Cooks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it very much fits into the movie in like a really weird way.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really great about that movie, Human Metal sort of touched on some of the iconography and stuff of it, but there's this whole weird thing, like this seems to be a deeper meaning, like an undercurrent to the film, like really weird elements of it that, you know, seem to mean something, but are very difficult to fathom. So, like, there's the way that a lot of scenes have a sort of like a sci-fi overtone to them, especially in the way they're directed. Like the scene where Jeremiah is giving his great speech, his monologue. If you look at their apartment, it's designed to look like the interior of a spaceship or something during that scene. And there's the scene where like Mandy and Nicolas Cage are like lying together towards the beginning of the film, and they're lying next to a window, and it looks like a starship window, and somehow like the ground below them looks like the stars, whatever. And then later it becomes even more apparent where you know, like you literally see planets and stuff in you know, in the distance, and like you know, the forest is made to look like alien landscapes, and approaching motorcycles are made to look like spaceships and stuff like that.
They're also watching an old sci-fi movie on a TV at some point. I don't know which.
Isn't she reading like those type of book, like those pulpy, sci-fi novels as well? Yeah.
Yes, that all fits into the aesthetic as well. Yeah, definitely.
It's unclear what exactly the meaning is, but you feel that there might be something deeper, and it sort of culminates in that scene where they meet. That really weird scene where he meets the guy who's working on the photography with the tiger and stuff. And what the fuck is that about? That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was about. Like, I really
I mean, he's the tiger, obviously, because, you know, he was wearing the shirt as well. And but, you know, who the guy might be and how he has how he has unleashed him. Basically, I don't know. But
I
the tiger is
the
literally let out of the cage at that point. So there you go.
I thought the guy was like the drug dealer or like the dark.
Yes, I
cat,
thought
something like that, but I wasn't really fully getting it.
But he was saying something else.
I thought he was like some representation of God or like death or something, you know. Like, but that's what I mean. Like, it's like that's what makes it really cool, you know. You feel like if you watch it enough times, you might gain some insight. And I love that about that film.
I felt like this was more. Yeah, I felt like there might be stuff there, but to me, this more felt like a style exercise more than anything, and try to make this very consistent. Very consistent tone, very consistent style work in this movie, which is, you know, a super crazy style. But the movie is so intent on showing us all these things that seem to have like a mythological background. And then, you know, at some point, like I said, you just hear, oh no, they're on super LSD. Like they are super nuts, just super nuts, which is kind of like diffusing all of that. At that point, you're like, yeah, this definitely looks like there's more things happening here than, you know, our simple minds might believe, but they're all just fucking high as a kite. And yeah, that's how I took it. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, there's some symbolism in here, like I said, with, you know, the tiger and Nicolas Cage and you know, Mandy saving the monster and blah blah blah, and that's definitely like playing into their characters and what characters they were before. But all the like I said, all the symbolism, all these relics that are presented to us, I don't think they have any meaning. It's all just like Jeremiah and his gang. You know, he's like the ultimate pretender. He's pretending to be like this god, this chosen one, something that he doesn't really believe in himself. He wants to, but as soon as Mandy like doesn't buy it, as the first woman apparently, and makes fun of it, he's so angry because she makes him question himself, and he hates that, and that's why she has to die. And you know, but he knows deep down that everything his whole assembly, all the shit, those mythical motorcycle creatures, they're all just fucking junkies who are just fucking coked up and on LSD, and it's nothing. It's just a facade. And I think the movie plays with that the most. It's like, oh, look at this. Oh, bomb, here's a relic. No, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like, there were just a bunch of crazy people. And the most meaning comes from Nicolas Cage and his emotional journey in that movie, because he tries to cope with the one good thing in his life, which was Mandy, is taken away from him. And yeah, that's the most interesting part and the most substantial part. Everything around that, all the symbolism, all the imagery, I think that's all phony stuff. And the movie knows that and tries to convey that. At least that's what I got out of it. I mean, there might be some more stuff in there.
Exactly.
But yeah.
See, human metal, by saying all of that, you just literally validated my entire point.
Sure.
That there's
glad to.
That it makes you think, it makes you wonder about all this stuff at the very least, you know. Some films you walk out with and you don't give a fucking second thought about it, but with Mandy you come out of it and then you're trying to fathom stuff out, like what exactly it meant. Do you know what I mean? Even if it means nothing, you're still trying to fathom it out in your brain, which I love that about that film. And you can, I think it's so open to interpretation that you can make up your own mind and get in debates about it with your friends, like we're doing right here.
Yeah. I have a friend who's who hates visual metaphors and stuff like that in movies and analogies, and he's like, why would you I don't know. He's like, why would you do that? Why not spell it just out, and you know, why make this shit clear? And like, dude, if you want to read that, if you want to have that in clear text, read a book. This is a visual medium. You play around with that
even
shit.
in books, you don't always do that. Like it's exactly. I kind of hate those people because of them. You always have like those really super long exposition sequences where everything is explained. Yeah, which like some movies aren't made for like a literal explanation.
But for dickheads like that, we have the end of Inception. No, not Inception. Sorry, Interstellar. Wrong movie.
Yeah, kind of.
Inception is also like a lot of exposition as well, but it really pulls it off, and then after that it goes real crazy with like the world that it's carefully set up.
Yeah.
But that's a different type of story.
I think
Interstellar, the end of Interstellar, you have a very interesting sort of like science fiction ending, which is really bizarre. And you're trying to fathom it out in the moment, and then they basically just go and explain exactly what happened at the end of the film. It's just like, and then remove any thought process.
Yeah, it's like, here it is.
It's completely wasted. It's like, wow, you've had a good think about that. Well, here's the answer. It's like, well, thanks for that.
And a movie that didn't do that was Annihilation. You know, the Natalie Portman flick that was on Netflix by the guy who made Ex Machina. And I really liked that.
And of course, the guy who wrote Devil May Cry.
Yes, don't forget that. But yeah, that was also a movie that did a lot of with visual interesting stuff, and used some of those as analogies and visual metaphors. And I really liked that. And I liked I watched some YouTube videos with analyses of that, and I found that just to be a very interesting movie. But yeah, he hated it. He's like, "What is this shit? Why would you do that?" So yeah, sometimes people watch movies differently, and I guess we like at least if there is something, it feels like there's something behind these. Some movie makers just use visual metaphors and stuff like that just for the sake of it, to try to act like they have something to say when they don't. And that's kind of what pretentious is and what pretentious means. But if you use visual metaphors and actually have to say something, it's just, packaged in a lot of crazy, difficult stuff that it's not that easy to decipher from the get-go, then it's fine to me. It's like, when I have the feeling, there's something here to latch on, then it's okay. And I get that from Mandy.
Okay, that's good. I better say, I thought you were going to call Mandy pretentious.
No.
No.
Sure. While I watched Mandy, as crazy as it was, I got the feeling that there's something there, just something substantial to latch onto. Even on the surface, it's a crazy revenge thriller and everything, but I feel like just as from a character point of view, there was something in there, and yeah, so that's why I liked all the crazy convoluted visual stuff.
So I'm gathering from your what you've said that you both relatively like Mandy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I definitely think I don't like it as much as you guys, but I'm always. I
had my problems with the first half.
Fully crazy. Like, I'm always in for something that's like shows me anything I haven't seen before at all. So that's definitely one thing Mandy is, for sure.
Yeah. And I liked the second half all the way through. I think I had some issues with the first half. I think the first half was a bit too long as well. Chuchu doesn't think that. I knew what they were trying to do, but I still feel like it went on a bit too long. But yeah, I still enjoyed that movie from beginning to end, so no problem. I know that's also part of the style, but I wish it didn't come with that high amount of film grain. Because I just love the colors in that movie. It begs to be watched in HDR, which I'm gonna do once I get the 4K Blu-ray for it. I hope there's one. But I feel like the film grain, even if it's supposed to be like this 80s aesthetic, kind of ruins a bit of that, because it takes some sharpness out of the interesting visuals and stuff like that. So that's one of the things I didn't like as much. I wish they wouldn't have done that. But aside from that, at least visual-wise, I adore that movie. I think it looks fantastic.
The visuals are great. Like, we were talking about that moment, like where Nick Cage is like in the car and like it's fully red and he's looking at like the camera and he's like his teeth are shown and his eyes are wide open and everything is red except for his eyes and his teeth, and it's like such a unique visual shot and like such an interesting like shot, and I've never seen something like this before, and it's like amazing.
Yeah, I love that film from start to finish. I don't, as Shimamoto alluded to, I don't agree that it dips in the first half. I loved it from start to finish, and I've watched it now like 3 or 4 times, and I've loved it more and more each time I've watched it. It's just fantastic movie for me. I don't have anything negative to say about it. So let's switch on to Brack's movie. Brack, why don't you tell us about Thief?
Yeah, that's a completely different type of movie, even though visually there is actually some overlap in there. But that's more because it's like an 80s like thriller. But I'm talking about Michael Mann's first movie, Thief, which is about like a professional safecracker and blah blah, work for the mafia, blah blah blah, and like it's like a Michael Mann thriller. It's like the original Michael Mann thriller, and it's interesting to see a filmmaker that comes out of the gate fully formed like this, whereas like he already has like his style completely down. He has his visual language completely down. He has his character language completely down, and I enjoyed every second of it. Like I really like these type of like blue collar crime movies. I really like the 80s Michael Mann visual style. I really like the performances in this. I liked every second of this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a Michael Mann movie. Just
it's definitely a Michael Mann movie.
The characters in there, you know, James Caan is kind of a cool guy, but also kind of an asshole.
Oh, it's definitely an asshole.
In this role, borderline racist. But
borderline.
Well,
what
yeah,
the fuck
no,
are you
he's a
talking
racist.
about?
Yes, he's a full-on racist, I guess.
Yeah,
But-
he literally goes up and says, you know, like, if you have any disreputable children, you know, if you have a black kid or a fucking chink kid or a fucking black chink kid, I'll take a disreputable kid. He also calls a guy a greasy wop at one point.
But like he is very like ignorant and racist in that, but he's kind of coming from like a good way.
Good place,
where he's
yeah.
like, I don't care. Like I don't care about this. Like I really don't care about this. I don't care about what kind of race my kid is. But the way he says it is like really offensive.
Yeah,
It's kind of hilarious.
He just wants to get the kid out of the system that he grew up in, and I mean that's a good idea. It's just he's very brash about it.
Yeah. Backhandedly insults two minorities in one fell swoop. Not just one, but two. But like, I actually, while we're on the subject of the character, because it's one of the notes I had about the film, I really enjoyed James Caan's character, especially when you compare it to most of Michael Mann's filmic characters, because most of them are very composed. They're very professional, right? And they're usually, you know, they're very focused on their work and stuff, and they just don't break that kind of level of professionalism. You know, they don't crack under pressure. But James Caan is all over the fucking place.
But he's definitely a professional. Like he's definitely like Michael Mann style. The job is everything for him, and he's like the first 10 minutes of this movie is like completely like the job. Like he's completely like one heist, which is, by the way, one of my favorite sequences. Like a sequence that, by the way, is kind of copied in Drive. The first sequence, like but he does his job perfectly, and he's so professional and composed. But he's definitely James Caan. He definitely has like that Corleone like anger in him.
Yeah, well, he's like my boss at work. Like my boss is a nice guy. Like the nicest guy you could ever meet, you know, like, you know, shake his hand and stuff, you know, have a good joke with him, maybe get a drink down the pub or whatever, until things go wrong, and then he turns into a fucking swearing loudmouth, like who will fucking F and blind. And you have to remind him, please don't speak to me like that. I'm a human being. You don't need to like talk to me like that. This is the same with James Caan. He's like like perfectly composed until anything goes remotely wrong, and then he's gonna break out your teeth with a fucking butt of a pistol. You know, or like when he should be being pragmatic, he's just really testy and in your face. It's like, I've got a job for you. Fuck you. I don't want your fucking job. You come to me, I'll fucking break your fuking face open, you motherfucker. I'll hunt down your fucking family.
which is super weird, you know? You got in one of the later movies in Heat, you got Al Pacino, and Al Pacino being more restrained in the movie.
By the way, like one of the things I like is he does the thing that like De Niro says he's gonna do in Heat. Like De Niro is like, oh, don't have anything you can't walk away from, right? Like you can't have anything. And this guy, he's definitely walking away from everything at the end of this movie. In one of like an amazing sequence where he's like, where the guy is like, you can't do, like the guy's threatening him, and he's like talking about like, this is not like in prison, like you like where you don't have anything and you can pretend you care about nothing. You have a wife, you have businesses, you have a kid. It's my kid. You have that kid on lease. Like that's amazing, amazing monologue there. And then James Caan is like, you're right, that is true. So now I'm just gonna burn my entire life to the ground, so I don't have to care about anything, and I can get you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great twist at the end, but I have to say, I had some major faults with this film. The interesting character was one of the good things, and the unpredictability of him was great. And that scene, like you said, was one of those like points where you just didn't expect, you didn't really see it coming. It just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Other really good things about that particular film, obviously, is the cinematography is amazing. It's fucking awesome. So Brack was saying previously that this is one of those kind of like when you look at neon infused films, this is like a big inspiration on those sort of noir films with kind of like a kind of like,
I mean,
eon. Yeah, you can please explain it, and I can.
If Nicholas Winding Refn says he didn't watch this movie as inspiration for Drive, I think he's a liar. Like, this movie feels so much like what the essence of what we think of as like 80s neon noir thrillers. Especially like if you look at something like Drive, it feels like it took a lot of inspiration from this movie. So I think in that way, it's like really feels like inspired, like our entire vision of like neon 80s.
Don't forget the soundtrack by Tangerine Dream, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah,
which
awesome.
By the way, that I think when I was recommending this movie, right, I was looking at like the like the awards as well on IMDb, and it definitely got like a nomination for worst musical score in the
What
Razzie.
the fuck?
Yeah,
are they high?
I thought to myself.
Okay, whoever gave him that fucking nomination should just be ashamed of themselves. What the fuck?
Go kill yourself. What the fuck?
Their nomination is like, a nomination for the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, right? Okay, good. Then it's like Razzie Awards, worst musical score. The Stinker Bad Movie Awards, winner, most intrusive musical score. And then like nominee, worst actor, worst actress, worst on-screen couple, and most annoying fake accent. That's like that's literally all the awards it's gotten. It's only gotten like negative awards, except for like a nomination from the Palme d'Or. It's like, what the fuck were people in the 80s thinking? This is insane.
Well, yeah. I have some negative things to say about this film in a minute, which I'm going to get into. But yeah, the cinematography, the soundtrack is definitely not a negative. That's awesome, and the cinematography is awesome. I also really love movies that, because we can't time travel, right? So movies are like a way of taking a look back into the past, and Michael Mann always films on location and stuff. That's one of the things he does, and you really get a taste of like the local areas and things like that. And I really, really felt that like when you were watching this film, it's the cinematography so good, and the camera angles are they're sort of low down or inside the car or whatever, and it's really like seeing through the eyes of the people that really lived during that time. Which is a time period that we can only see in movies and stuff. But here you get it in quite, really well designed definition and very kind of natural camera angles. You can almost feel like you're on the street in the pouring rain back in the 80s at points during this film. I really loved that aspect about this film. It was beautifully shot and directed. But there were major issues for me, Brack. I'm not going to lie to you. Firstly, really terrible dialogue in many, many places. People just don't talk like that. They just don't. It was very, very Michael Mann-y dialogue to like, do you know when you watch a Woody Allen film and it's like every single character that talks is basically Woody Allen in a different skin? This is like Michael Mann.
There's some people who say that about Joss Whedon movies as well, so...
For me, that's a positive. Like, I love that Michael Mann dialogue, where it's like either people aren't talking anything, like they're just staring at each other, or they're like talking and they use like words that they pretend they use words that like have no meaning except for them in the movie, but like because of the way they say it, you're like, oh yeah, that probably means something, even though it's like they use like weird ass sentences. I love it. I really enjoy that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, partially it's because the whole history of cinema has gone by as well. And Michael Mann has made many fantastic movies like Collateral and Heat. And when you look back at Thief, this does not measure up to those in the dialogue sections.
Oh, talk about not measuring up. I don't know if we've talked about that, but He did even before he did Thief, I think he did a version of Heat for TV. Did you guys know that? Did we talk about
Yeah, yeah.
So
Which is
LA
supposed to be
Takedown.
terrible.
Because I was LA Takedown.
He did it actually like after Thief, like 8 years after Thief.
There you go. So even then, that doesn't look good. I mean, that's also part of because those actors were not so good. He used then, and it was on TV and it was not a movie. But it's still fun to watch. There are comparisons on YouTube, which I checked out after learning about this, where they set up the scenes from LA Takedown and then show you the corresponding scene from Heat. And it's the same thing, but Heat is so much better. it's like the exact same script. It's the exact same script. It's the exact same movie. But Heat is so much better. I don't know if it's just because he evolved as a movie maker, or if the actors are better, or if it's all coming together.
All of it. But it's also because LA Takedown wasn't supposed to be a movie at all. It was supposed to be like a pilot for a TV show that wasn't picked up.
Okay.
So Michael Mann is also one of the guys behind Miami Vice, the original Miami Vice.
Yeah.
So he had like a big sway, and this was supposed to be like the next Miami Vice, but definitely wasn't.
Yeah,
but he wanted to make that movie apparently, or at least turn that story into something. So he used the script again for Heat, I guess.
Yeah,
which is great because Heat is amazing. Yeah, he knew that script was amazing.
Yeah,
right. And he's like, yeah, okay, I need to do something with the script. It's like, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna do it again.
Yeah,
and I think
kudos to him.
Completely recast. I think maybe Michael Rooker is in both, but that's about it.
One of the main stars is I think either playing Robert De Niro or Al Pacino's role. I can't quite remember which. Is Xander Berkeley, who reappears as Ralph in Heat. Right, Ralph, sit down. So Al Pacino famously says in the film. So he must have had some faith to sort of recast him in Heat. But but for me, the dialogue didn't work, and the romance really didn't work because like it has that weird '80s thing where James Caan is like super fucking pushy, almost rapey in his sort of like pursuit of the girl.
That's true.
That didn't work for me at all. And then of course there was the fucking 80s porn slow motion thing that was going on where someone would pull out a gun and it would go into slow motion. Like there was way too much slow motion, like with those kind of like echoey like gunshots and stuff and people flying back through the air in slow motion and stuff like that. And I don't know, because everybody, because a couple of the characters have big mustaches and stuff, it just feels like it
yeah, Dennis Farina in this movie, so yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome.
It's his first movie, by the way. And he's like, that's one of the best mustaches in movies, of course. So, yeah.
But that sort of aged it badly, in my opinion. That kind of like very sort of retro 80s. I mean, it's also kind of charming, but I don't know. Overall, it didn't really kind of like it was okay. There were good points. There were bad points. That's the best I can say about it. I mean,
I'm really sad to hear that about it. Like I can see that it's not that perfect, but I just love so much about it. So it's like, yeah, I really was hoping you would join me in that love of it. But,
yes, I was hoping the same thing because generally speaking, I really do like Michael Mann. However, I would rank this among his lower films. I mean, I like it maybe a little bit more than Manhunter, but for me, it was like this
definitely like it better than Manhunter.
This is like a 3-star film for me. It's all right. It's entertaining, but it's like it's got some serious faults that like restrain it from me like enjoying it to a higher level. How about you, Human Metal? How do you just feel about the film as in like a quality?
I liked it, but I think for me it would be one of those movies if I still had normal TVs and wouldn't have like constrained myself to Netflix and the like. At this point, if this was on a Sunday afternoon, I would like leave it running on TV and watch it probably, maybe. But I wouldn't go out probably and try to watch it again or anytime soon because it didn't leave that strong of an impression. if I want to go for a Michael Mann movie, I would definitely go for another Michael Mann movie. I would always go for Collateral because it's my favorite one.
That's definitely, in my opinion, one of his best movies. That and Heat are his best.
It's just like that, or Heat probably, right? So Thief probably, yeah. If it, it's on screen,
you know what?
You can check it out.
Sometimes I'm in a crazy mood and I go for Miami Vice. That's all
I like Miami Vice too.
Yeah,
it's underrated.
Human Metal's got Human Metal has banged the nail right in the head for me. This is a wet Sunday afternoon movie, although, it never be shown in the afternoon because it's really violent, but that's what it is. It's like one of those films when you're exactly. Yeah, it's always raining. It's like, it's one of those movies you're like, you're really bored on a Sunday and you switch on the movie, switch on the TV and it's just randomly on TV and you're just like, yeah, I'll watch this. And you sit there and you kind of enjoy it, in a kind of like relaxed, don't give a shit kind of way, but it's never going to chase down the big boys. That's exactly what it is for me. It's like one of those things you turn on late night TV and watch just because it's on and sort of, partially enjoy it. But I don't have the same kind of level of fervor where I'm just like, oh man, this is fucking amazing. It's just like, oh yeah, it's all right.
Has anyone of you... Sorry, Greg, I didn't want to interrupt you.
See, I kind of understand what you guys are saying. Like, it definitely has aged, but for example, this has in my opinion, my favorite like openings of a movie. Like the first 10 minutes of it are just like amazing. I really love those first 10 minutes, and like there's still flaws in there, but most of the flaws I have with the movie are because of its age, like because of like what was the time period it was filmed in.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't really get past like the fucking, the bad dialogue, the rapey fucking rapey relationship, and the casual
relationship
racism
is pretty bad.
And the casual racism.
The casual racism, I thought was like kind of funny because like
it
shows,
is funny,
but like it shows his character. Like he is definitely rough around the edges. Like he in a way that's like. He beats it in a good way, but you can see how offensive it is. As me, as a viewer, can see it. But you can also see how it fits the character. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. It's consistent.
Yeah, but like what he's saying is bad, but what he means with it is good. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's why I think it fits with the character.
So basically saying like he basically infers that unwanted children are either black or Chinese.
But but that's in that time period for like people.
It's probably true. But...
it's probably true in that time period. The people that are like, yeah, it's probably true. The people that are taking a kid from like out of the system are probably like richer white people in that time period. So they probably also go for a white kid. But he's like, I don't care about any of that. I just want to get a kid out of the system I've lived in. I want nobody else to have that. And I just like take any of them. Like, I don't care which one. So he's trying to say that he doesn't care about race. But the way he's saying it is really offensive. It's like,
I mean, I see what you're saying, but in this day and age, it doesn't make you do any less of a double take when he says it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm not saying like I support this. I support that, but I think it's like it fits with the character so well.
I guess so. It certainly fits with the time. Like I say, I'm saying it as a kind of negative, but like I don't really mean that because you can't really judge people in the past for our conceptions of politics now in this current age. Do you know what I mean? Like politics were what they were at that time.
I mean, the thing he's saying were pretty offensive back then as well. But
yeah, probably.
He doesn't say it in a negative way. That's all I'm saying.
I'm fairly sure he does, but if you walked into an office to welfare and said that type of thing these days, I don't know what the fuck would happen, but it wouldn't be good. Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, it's kind of a little sad to see that Thief didn't quite make the grade, but I guess it's revenge for Hudson Hawk, you fucker.
This is way better than Hudson Hawk.
In your dreams.
Wow! Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't embarrass yourself.
I don't agree with that.
Embarrass myself. It's definitely better than Hudson Hawk. Like,
Yeah, who got nominated for more Razzies? You fuck.
Predator. Actually, Hudson Hawk has way more Razzies. Like, oh my god! And it doesn't. Hey, Hudson Hawk doesn't have a God nomination. And the difference is that the Hudson Hawk actually won all those Razzies. So.
Well, at least you see, it's got something over the Thief right there.
But Hudson Hawk didn't win his Stinker Bad Movie Awards, so it only won the Razzies.
Well, I can tell you that, like, in my relationship between those movies and Hudson,
Actually, oh my god!
If I had to go back and watch one of those two films, I would definitely go back and watch Hudson Hawk and not Thief.
I would definitely watch Thief. And that's Razzie nominated Worst Picture of the Decade, Hudson Hawk.
Yeah! Ow! It's a winner. How about you, Human Metal? You're the tiebreaker.
What? You know I like Hudson Hawk better.
I already know he likes
That's not
Hudson
fair
Hawk.
to brag.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's fair, baby. We'll take the win. Just like the Razzie for the worst film of the decade. Best film of the decade.
Oh, it's not so bad.
Have any of you guys seen? Because I'm interested in this. Because the Thief made me like Google Michael Mann's filmography, and I haven't seen his The Keep yet, which is supposed to be a horror movie that he made.
Yeah,
also a soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. Any one of you seen that?
I heard that's bad. That was like bad for the time as well. Like not like Thief and Mandy.
Well, Thief apparently was bad for the time as well, according to the Razzie nominations. But that doesn't mean anything.
It's not like Thief that like people have appreciated more over time. But like Thief, like nobody likes it.
Especially people.
That's a shame.
Yeah, the Thief is especially appreciated by fans of the far right. But yeah.
I mean, I think the Thief is more appreciated by it because it definitely has Nazis in it.
Yeah,
it has a cool cover. That's for sure. Like it has a really badass cover. The Keep, but no, I heard it's bad.
Yeah, that's a shame. I would like to see a horror movie with Michael Mann's aesthetic.
That would be so weird.
Yeah. Yes, that's why I want to see it. But if it's really bad, I don't know if I should.
Why not?
Manhunter is a little bit of a horror movie, right?
We'll track down The Keep and watch it.
Manhunter is a bit of a horror movie, right? So
yeah, Manhunter.
But I've seen that. I mean, but that's kind of more a psycho thriller. I'm thinking of something else here. So
that's right. Truth be told, I actually prefer Red Dragon to Manhunter, but maybe I'm the only one. But there you go.
I prefer the season of the TV show to both of them. But
yeah,
that's just
okay. That's not really a contest.
Yeah, I've not really seen that though, so I can't comment. But I already agree with you that that's definitely the case because what little I have seen of Hannibal was awesome.
I think you might actually like that show because that's also a genre show that's filmed like it's like an art house movie a lot of the time. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities between Mandy and Hannibal, actually. Yeah, true.
You know what? I don't disagree with you. I think I watched a little bit of Hannibal and liked all of what I saw, but then I think it just disappeared from Hulu or Netflix or whatever the fuck I was using, and I never got to see the end of it. So, but hey, that's our opinion on Mandy and Thief. If you have watched those two movies, please sound off in the comment section and tell us what you thought about that. And please join us next time you shock yourself with your own electric eel.